Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. I hope all of you are doing well and preparing well for the UPSC Prelims 2024. Since UPSC 2024 is very near and keeping that in mind, today I have come up with the part 2 of the important government schemes. And in the part 1 of the important government schemes video, I have covered 10 important government schemes. And in the part 2 of this video, I am covering next 10 important government schemes for India. And those who are preparing for the UPSC Prelims this year, they must watch this video, and those who are preparing for the other government exams, they must also watch this video because government schemes are very important for all the government exams in India. So having said that, let us begin with the first government scheme of today's video. So first important scheme of today's video is about the VATA brand. So the Indian government has launched the sale of brand VATA which is the wheat flour with a maximum retail price of 27.5 per kg. ठीक है, so ये price आपको याद रखना है, ठीक है, and which is much lower than the national average of 35.93. So जो VATA brand है, which is being released by the government of India in the Indian market, ठीक है, to create the brand of government of India. And this VATA brand is aimed to stabilize the prices of essential commodities. So जितने भी essential commodities है, which includes the rice, wheat, etc. So to reduce the prices of these essential commodities, the VATA brand was launched. And this VATA brand will be available in various outlets, which includes Kendriya Vandar, ठीक है, National Agricultural Cooperative Marketing Federation, which is also called NAFED, the National Cooperative Consumer Federation, which is NCCF, etc. So in these outlets, the VATA brands will be available. So आपको याद रखना है कि VATA will be available in these outlets. So एग्जाम में पूछा जा सकता है कि VATA will be available only in the NAFED outlets. No, it will be available in all these outlets, ठीक है. So you have to remember this point. And NAFED was founded in 1958 and it is a leading Indian cooperative organization for agricultural product procurement and marketing, ठीक है. So NAFED was founded in 1958, ठीक है, and this is a government organization and this is a cooperative organization in India, ठीक है. And NCCF, which is the National Cooperative Consumer Federation, is an apex organization for consumer cooperatives, ठीक है. जितने भी agriculture related cooperatives है वो NCCF देखता है. And it functions under Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution. NAFED and NCCF are registered under the Multi-State Cooperative Societies Act. So ये आपको याद रखना है, ठीक है. So एग्जाम में ये पूछा जा सकता है कि the NAFED is registered under the State Cooperative Societies Act or the Central Cooperative Acts or the Multi-State Cooperative Societies Act. So you have to remember that NAFED and NCCF are registered under the Multi-State Cooperative Societies Act of 2002. ठीक है. So these are the important points so far as the VATA is concerned. Now moving on to next scheme of discussion for today. So the next important news that I am going to discuss today is the KRISI 24/7. And this KRISI 24/7 is basically an AI tool, which is the artificial intelligence tool, and this tool basically aims to revolutionize the agricultural news monitoring. So main purpose आपको याद रखना है कि KRISI 24/7 is related to what? It is related to agricultural news monitoring, and this initiative is basically a collaboration between Department of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare and the Wadhwani Institute of Artificial Intelligence, which is Wadhwani AI, ठीक है. ये point भी important है. And the next point is it is AI powered solution designed for automated agricultural news monitoring and analysis. We discussed about it, and it scans and translates articles in multiple languages, extracting crucial information. And जितने भी important agriculture related news है वो KRISI 24/7 analyze करेगा, and that news will be extracted in the vernacular languages. So important news related to the agriculture would be extracted in multiple languages, ठीक है. And this KRISI 24/7 was developed with the support of Google, ठीक है. ये point बहुत important है because in various one day exams it is asked that recently launched KRISI 24/7 initiative is an collaborative initiative of Government of India and between Google. So it is not the initiative between the government of India and the Meta, but it is the initiative between the government of India and Google. Okay, so you have to know these points, and it is aimed to transform the process of identifying and managing agricultural news articles, ensuring timely alerts and actions, safeguard farmers' interest and foster the sustainable agricultural growth. So basically this app or this initiative was launched keeping the farmers' interest in mind. So for this reason this topic is very important, and this is all about Krishi 24/7. Now moving on to next topic of discussion for today. The next important topic of discussion for today is Antyodaya Anna Yojana, which is AI, and this topic was in news recently because the cabinet extended the scheme to distribute the subsidized sugar to Antyodaya Anna Yojana farmers to more than 3 years till 21st of March 2026. Okay, so this scheme has been extended to 31st of March 2026, and this scheme was launched in December 2000 for 1 crore poorest of poor farmers. ठीक है, so the Antyodaya Anna Yojana was launched in 2000, ठीक है, and this was launched to target the poorest of poor. So far as the features of Antyodaya Anna Yojana is concerned, AI had to first identify the 1 crore poorest of poor families which are under the below poverty line, who are covered under the TPDS states. Okay, so the people under TPDS would be covered. So TPDS means the targeted public distribution system. So under TPDS, people who are very poor in India were targeted. Okay, and this scheme again aims to provide the food grains at highly subsidized rate of 2 per kg for wheat and 3 per kg for rice and 1 kg for coarse grains. So the rice, wheat and other coarse grains would be provided to the families of AI. So the AI families would be provided 3 rupees per kg of rice and 2 rupees per kg of wheat and 1 rupees per kg of the coarse grain. Okay, so you have to remember this ratio 3:2:1, and all costs related to distribution, transportation and the margins to the dealers had to be borne by state or UTs. So जितने भी transportation and distribution related cost है that is to be borne by the states, and apart from these costs which are distribution and transportation cost, all the costs related to Antyodaya Anna Yojana scheme is to be borne by central government, and the chosen households are entitled to 35 kilogram of food grains per month. So 35 kilograms of food grains would be given to the identified households under the scheme, and this scheme was again expanded in 2003-04 to add 50 lakh BPL households again. So 50 lakh BPL households were again added, and these BPL households included widows, terminally ill persons and the disabled persons or persons is 60 years and more. So these people were again added in 2003-04. So all these people are now covered under the Antyodaya Anna Yojana family or scheme. So these are all the important facts related to the Antyodaya Anna Yojana. Now moving on to next important scheme for today. The next important scheme that we are going to discuss about is the road tape scheme, which is the scheme for remission of duties and taxes on exported products. And initially this scheme was notified until 38th of September 2023, and it has been recently extended until 38th of June 2024. And this road tape scheme relates to supporting the exporters in India. Okay, so this scheme basically aims to provide the comprehensive support to exporters by remitting the duties and taxes incurred during the production and distribution of exported products. So all the taxes which are paid by these exporters to the government of India would be remitted to these companies or these exporters by government of India. So the main objective of road tape scheme is to remit the taxes or return the taxes which are paid by the exporters to the government of India. Okay, so you have to know this point. And this road tape initiative was launched in 1st of January 2021, replacing the existing scheme, which is the merchandise exports from India scheme. So the merchandise exports from India scheme, which is MEIS, was replaced by the road tape scheme. Okay, so MEIS scheme was basically a scheme which was also the same kind of scheme. So before the launch of the road tape in India, there was the MEIS scheme. So under MEIS scheme, the exporters were subsidized for their export in the other countries. So under the MEIS scheme, the exporters were given the subsidies for exporting the goods to other countries. So under the MEIS scheme, the exporters were supported to export their goods to other countries. Okay? So this is an important point. And so far as the road tape scheme is concerned, the road tape committee which operates within the Department of Revenue has the primary responsibility to review and recommend the ceiling rates of different export sectors under the road tape scheme. So all the rates under the road tape scheme will be reviewed by the road tape committee. Okay? So you have to know this point. So these are all the facts related to the road tape scheme. So you have to know all the facts related to the road tape scheme, because in the exam any of these statements can be given in the options. So you have to know all these basic facts, because so far as the government schemes are concerned, only the facts are important. No other things you have to remember. You have to remember only the facts about the government schemes. So for this reason, you have to know all the facts related to important government schemes and the details. So these were the important facts about the road tape scheme. Now moving on to next scheme of discussion for today. Before I move into another topic of discussion for today, I have an important announcement for you all. Those who are preparing for UPSC CAC 2024 prelims, NISSE All India Test Series program of the Aptitude Academy for Civil Services is must attempt for all, because this test series contains the 4900 high quality questions curated by the experts from Aptitude Academy for Civil Services, and the aspirants would also get the recorded videos on these tests. And the most important feature of this test series is that the money will be refunded to the students if the students finds this test to be unsatisfactory. So register yourself for this test by scanning the QR code given here, and you can also register for this test by going through the link given in the description section. So having said that, now let us move into another topic of discussion for today. The next important topic of discussion for today is PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana, and this scheme is important because this scheme was launched recently in budget 24-25 by the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, and this scheme is also called the rooftop solar scheme. So you have to know that the rooftop solar scheme and the PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana are name of the two same schemes, and this scheme basically aims to provide the subsidies for installing the rooftop solar panels for residential houses. So the subsidies would be provided for installing the rooftop solar panels. So the subsidies would be provided for installing the rooftop solar panels at home, and this subsidy would help save money in the electricity bills. So money spent in the electricity bill would be reduced under the scheme, and this scheme basically aims to provide 300 units of free electricity every month. So 300 units of electricity would be provided free of cost to these households, and this 300 units of free electricity would be provided to 1 crore households. So you have to remember these facts. So ये facts exam में पूछा जा सकता है, and this scheme will help poor and middle class households to save up to rupees 15,000 to 18,000 crores. So the cost of electricity to Government of India would be also reduced because these subsidized costs would require the families to pay less amount of electricity bill to Government of India. So these are the important facts that you need to know about the PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. Now moving on to next topic of discussion for today. The next important scheme of discussion for today is the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, which is PMAYG, and this scheme is in news because recently Government of India has planned to provide 2 crore more houses in the next 5 years to meet the requirements of rising increase in families under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin. So the Government of India is basically aiming to provide 2 crore more houses under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin scheme. And so far as this scheme is concerned, this scheme was launched in 1st of April 2016 by replacing the Indira Awas Yojana. So Indira Awas Yojana scheme was replaced by the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin scheme in 1st of April 2016. So you have to note the date and which scheme is the parent scheme of Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, and this scheme is basically aimed to provide the Pakka houses to all who are houseless and who live in dilapidated houses in rural areas by 2022. So the target of this scheme was basically to provide the Pakka houses to all the rural families by 2022, and the Government of India is basically trying to expand this scheme for next 5 years. And so far as the cost sharing under this scheme is concerned, the cost under this scheme is shared between the central and state governments in 60:40 ratio in plain areas and 90:10 ratio in the northeastern and Himalayan states. So for the plain areas, the revenue sharing ratio between the center and states is 60:40, and for the northeastern and the Himalayan states, the revenue sharing ratio is 90:10. So this scheme is basically a centrally sponsored scheme, and beneficiaries under the scheme is selected under the socio-economic caste census of 2011. Okay. So these are the important facts that you need to know about the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin scheme. Now moving on to the next topic of discussion for today. Since we just discussed about the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, we also need to discuss about the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban. So for this reason, let us discuss about the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban in detail. And so far as this scheme is concerned, this scheme was launched in June 2015. Okay. So this was launched in June 2015, and this scheme basically aims to provide the all-weather Pakka houses to all eligible beneficiaries in urban areas of the country by 2022. This objective is basically same as the objective of the scheme under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin. So the aim of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin and the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban is basically same, and the scheme covers the entire urban area in the country, including the statutory towns as per the census 2011 and the towns notified subsequently, including the notified planning and development areas. So all these towns in India are being covered under this scheme. So not only the municipality towns, but all the statutory towns in India are being covered under this scheme. So you have to know this point, because in the exam you might be confused that which of the following towns are covered under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban scheme. So you have to know that all the towns in India are being covered under this scheme, and this scheme is being implemented through the 4 verticals. So this has the 4 components. The first one is the beneficiary-led construction and enhancement scheme, which is the BLC scheme, and the affordable housing in partnership, which is AHP scheme, and the third one is in situ slum redevelopment scheme, which is ISSR, and the fourth one is credit linked subsidy scheme, so CLSS. So these are the 4 components of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban scheme. So in the exam you might be asked which of the following is the component of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, and some of the options might be these and some of the options might not be these. So you have to know which are the components of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban. So these are the components of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban, and in the August 2022 the Union Cabinet approved the continuation of this project till 31st of December 2024. So this Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban is being implemented till 31st of December 2024. So you have to know that the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin has been discontinued, and that scheme was there till 2022 only. But the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban scheme is the scheme which is still in the implementation phase in India. So far as the funding under the scheme is concerned, the credit linked subsidy component will be implemented as the central sector scheme, while the other 3 components would be implemented as the centrally sponsored scheme. So unlike the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin scheme, which was the centrally sponsored scheme, this scheme has 2 components, which is the centrally sector scheme and the centrally sponsored scheme. And we already discussed in the earlier class that the central sector scheme means the scheme which is completely funded by Government of India, and the centrally sponsored schemes are the scheme which is funded by both the central and state governments. And in this Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban scheme, the scheme which is the credit linked subsidy scheme is completely funded by Government of India, and other 3 schemes are funded by both the central and state governments. So these are the important facts that you need to know about so far as the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana is concerned. So you have to know the difference that the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban is still continuing scheme, but the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin is the scheme which was discontinued in 2022, and the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban is the basically the centrally sponsored scheme, but the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban has both the components, which is the centrally sponsored and the central sector scheme. So these are the important facts so far as the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban scheme is concerned. Now moving on to next topic of discussion for today. The last important scheme of discussion for today is very important, and this scheme is basically about the nano DAP, which is the diammonium phosphate. So the nano DAP was basically in news because the finance minister in the interim budget of 2024-25 has announced the expansion of application of nano DAP as fertilizer on various crops in all agroclimatic zones. So government of India is basically aiming to promote the use of nano DAP all across India. So for this reason, this nano DAP is important. And so far as nano DAP is concerned, nano DAP is basically the specialized form of DAP with size less than 100 nanometer, making it more efficient than the conventional counterpart, which is the urea. So this nano DAP has size less than 100 nanometer. So you have to remember this specification. So in the science and technology questions, the specifications are specially asked. So you have to remember these specifications so far as nano DAP is concerned, because UPSC might ask this type of specifications in prelims. Okay? And this nano DAP is more efficient than the urea because the size of nano DAP is very low. For this reason, they can easily penetrate into the roots. So for this reason, the nano DAP is more efficient than other fertilizers. And so far as the diammonium phosphate is concerned, DAP is the second most commonly used fertilizer in India after urea. Okay? So urea is most commonly used fertilizer in India, and DAP is preferred fertilizer in India because it contains both nitrogen and phosphorus. So the urea is basically used in the soils where there is less amount of nitrogen. So the nitrogen requirement of the soils would be fulfilled by the nitrogenous fertilizers, which is the urea, but the requirement of phosphorus would be fulfilled by DAP. So the DAP fulfills both the requirement of the nitrogen as well as the phosphorus. Okay? So you have to know these points. And the fertilizer grade DAP contains the 18% nitrogen and 46% phosphorus. Okay? So the percentage of the phosphorus is more than the nitrogen in the fertilizer grade DAP. So you have to know this point as well. And in 2023, the Indian Farmers Fertilizers Cooperative, which is the 𝐼𝐸𝐻, launched its first nano DAP containing 18% nitrogen and 16% for phosphorus by volume. So you have to know this point, that the 𝐼𝐸𝐻 was the first company in India which produced the first nano fertilizer in India. So you have to know this point, because in various exams it has been already asked that which of the following organizations recently launched the first nano urea in India. Okay? So you have to know that the 𝐼𝐸𝐻 was the organization which first launched the nano DAP or nano urea in India. So these were all important facts related to nano DAP, and this was also the last topic of discussion for today. And today I covered the next 10 important government schemes for all the government exams in India. And in the part 3 of the important government schemes video, I'll be covering the next 10 important government schemes. And having said that, I'm concluding today's session. We'll meet again in the next video. Till then, take care.